What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode. So by judging by the title from this video, you guys know that we're gonna be working on this thing today. So I've got my broken small turbo Mini Cooper right over here, and we've got a broken engine on it. So we're gonna be taking this, bringing it right back to scratch to a bare block. We're gonna rebuild it from the ground up. So we're gonna be going from a small turbo broken Mini Cooper to a big turbo fixed, forged, fully built Mini Cooper. So we're gonna be going through the disassembly stage even more. If you guys haven't seen the first couple videos in this series, check the description box. I'll have links for you directing it right to the beginning of this so you guys can be right up to date as to what we're doing. But today we're gonna be removing the exhaust side of the car. We're gonna be disconnecting the exhaust manifold, the turbocharger. We're gonna make sure the lines going to the turbo are removed, both for the oil and the coolant. And once we have that done, we can continue the disassembly to remove the cylinder head from the block. So we're gonna get right into it and start disassembling everything on the hot side of the engine. The turbocharger and the exhaust manifold all need to be removed in one shot. Now to do that, we need to remove the bolts that are holding the exhaust manifold onto the cylinder head, along with all the lines that are feeding the turbocharger with oil and coolant. So if you have oil feeding your turbocharger, that means that you're gonna have a return line and a feed line going to the turbo. The same thing goes for coolant. So you can have 0, 2, or 4 lines going to your turbocharger. Now for mine, we have 4 in total. We have the oil return line at the top, we have the coolant return line found here, the coolant feed line found on the bottom, and underneath the turbo, down here, there's a oil feed line. The oil feed line is held in place and secured by an 8mm bolt that needs to be removed from the bottom side of the engine. There's plenty of room to get access to it from underneath the car, but from up top, there isn't enough space. If you use a couple extensions, you should be able to get access to it, no problem. So with this guy here removed, we can remove the oil feed line from the bottom side of the turbo. So we just go underneath, and it should just slide right out. With the feed line disconnected, you can see down here that the line is free and removed from the turbo. So the oil is fed from there from an auxiliary oil pump found underneath the turbo. So once you have all 4 of the lines removed from the turbo, we should then be able to remove the exhaust manifold and turbo all in one shot. So with all 4 lines removed from the turbo, so both coolant and both oil lines, we can go underneath the turbo, and there's gonna be a bracket that's supporting the weight of the turbo against the block. There's a little brace there, and it's secured by a 13mm bolt on the block side and a 10mm bolt on the turbo side.
You can see from on top of the motor the little bolt that's connecting the bracket up to the block. So once you remove that 13mm bolt from in there, you should then be able to get access to the 10mm bolt that's holding the other end of the bracket onto the turbo. So hopefully if that bolt isn't stuck on there too tight and isn't too rusted, you should be able to remove it from the turbo. But unfortunately for my car, I tried using penetrating fluid, I tried using wrenches and sockets, and I couldn't get it out for the life of me. Now fortunately enough, I should still be able to remove everything from the car, but I will have to remove it all in one shot. It shouldn't be too difficult to do that at this point. It just means that there's going to be a little bit more bulk, and it might be a little bit more difficult to finesse it out of that tight space.
So to remove the exhaust manifold, it looks like there's 4 nuts found on the top that are attached by studs into the cylinder head, 4 on the top of the manifold, and then more additional ones on the bottom side of the manifold. Now the most difficult ones are going to be the ones found by the turbocharger. So we can't disconnect the turbo from the exhaust manifold while it's attached like this. The way that we disconnect it is we have to remove the exhaust manifold with the turbo attached. So what that means is that we need to grab an extension with our ratchet and slide underneath the turbocharger, and there's a couple nuts that we need to remove so we can remove everything from the car. The most complicated nut is going to be the one found on top of the manifold found on this side. So to get access to it, we're going to need to grab an 11mm deep socket with a little extension on our ratchet. Now we're going to slide this under the big bulk of the turbocharger right here and above the wastegate. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide it in there like that, and then look up here, and you should be able to see our extension slide through once you get to the other end of it. 1 second. Like that. Now I'll move the light so you can see this. You can see that we have our chrome socket right through there. So it is kind of hard to see, and it's kind of hard to get on camera, but in person you can see this a lot better. So once you have that on there, you can loosen it up, and start removing the nuts that are found on here. Now, this kind of setup is a little weird. So they're each attached to a stud, but you can see that there's a metal brace that goes over top of each of them. So it applies even pressure onto the head. So you're gonna have, so for instance, on this top one right here, you're gonna have 3 bolts on there, 1, 2, 3, and then a bar on top. So once you remove the 3 nuts, that bar can come off, and then it will relieve pressure from the manifold onto the head. Now you're gonna do the same thing for the top one here. There's another one underneath here, and another one on this side underneath the turbo.
Removing each one of these nuts is going to be somewhat tedious because the stud itself is pretty long. So if you're lucky enough, the nut itself will come out instead of the nut and stud together. But if you do take them out at the same time, it is fairly simple to separate the nut from the stud. Now once you remove each and every one of them, you should then be able to remove the little brackets that are supposed to be attached to the exhaust manifold. So they're there to help you apply even pressure for the manifold onto the head so that nothing is going to warp and you get a good seal.
Not gonna lie, I'm getting quite frustrated with this thing. I kinda wanna just pull the entire front end off the car and pull the whole motor out because it's being a pain in the butt working with such small tolerances and such hard to reach areas. Now, I am getting the exhaust manifold off. It is coming off kind of easy, but I've got one nut that's stuck on there and I can't get it off without stripping it because of the stud for the turbo. Now, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the turbo. And there's still one nut found on that stud right there. And I can't get to it because that stud is in there. And I need to find 2 nuts that are the same size and that proper thread pitch so I can back them onto it and take that out. But I don't think I'll be able to get to it for this video, but I have the remainder of all the other nuts and bolts and studs and everything removed from the manifold. So that is pretty much good to go because as soon as I get that one stud removed, the one on the bottom, I can take that nut out and then I can be on my ways. But it's stupid because that one little thing is holding me back from taking this entire thing out. I won't be able to get that until tomorrow because most of the stores now are closed because it's kind of late. But in the meantime, I am going to be removing the headlights to give me a little bit of extra space to work with. Now they are pretty bulky. Now, as soon as I move these out of the way, I'll have a little bit more space to work with, and it'll make life a little bit easier. Removing the headlight is actually quite simple. There's a bolt here, 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 and here that needs to be removed. There's 4 of them. They're each 10mm bolts. Once you have those removed, you can lift it up and disconnect the wiring harness on the back. Now, if your Mini Cooper has this little function right here, this is a windshield washer sprayer. So it comes out and shoots, well, windshield washer fluid on the headlight to clean it. Now, it's kind of a stupid feature if you ask me, but my car has it regardless. All the junk Cooper Workses and most of the Cooper S's have them. Now, just disconnect the wiring connector right there. And then you have to disconnect the little hose clamp thing that's attaching the fluid, that's applying the fluid to the headlight. It's attached to a little nipple like this. So once you have that off, you can remove it and set it aside. Now, unfortunately, that's how I'm gonna have to end this video. If you guys stay tuned for next week, I'll be able to put out another video regarding this Mini because I'll have tomorrow to work on it. Now, today, or technically yesterday, when you guys are seeing this video is being made. So I need to go upload it, edit it, and make it so it's kind of pretty for you guys so you guys can watch it and have something to watch in the meantime. But I promised you guys a mini video, and here it is. If you guys have any questions regarding the video, throw them down in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to help. Again, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.